This is a short video about a Capstone project that I implemented as part of the Google Kaggle 5-day generative AI course in April 2025. And as a use case for this project, I selected an economic impact analysis for an economic category that you can choose. And in this release, there are really no limitations constrained for the category or term that you use. It's free text, so you could use something like tariffs, unemployment, war, peace, anything you think that would make sense and you would like to analyze for an economic impact. You will also specify a time period like 6 months, 2 years, 500 years, 1,000 years, and telling the LLM how far back in history it should go to find some events with significant economic impact for the category that you have specified. And the LLM is tasked to find 3 events with a significant economic impact during the entire time period, like the last 6 months or last 500 years. And then the LLM will return an analysis and specify the 3 events and analyze them for economic impact. You get the larger summary and the description and why the events were chosen, and including the reasoning. And then the next task for the LLM is to estimate the economic impact level based on a defined rubric that I specified. And then the system calculates an overall average across the 3 events from very positive to very negative, providing this as a structured output. I also implemented function calling, similar to what was implemented during the class. So I have some database tools that are defined and executed to retrieve a list of artists from the database. Then the LLM chooses one randomly and looks up the style for that specific artist from the database and returns it as an output. And in the last step, the system, the LLM, takes all the information and generates an image by using the Gemini 2.0 Flash experimental model. And the inputs for the image are the chosen economic category, the estimated overall impact we calculated earlier, and the artist style. So in this small add-on, I also implemented a simple agent using LangGraph. For this use case, it's really overkill, as all steps are, just executed in sequence, and the nodes or the steps are, or the nodes are wrappers of the steps I implemented earlier. So let's walk quickly through some of the code, and I also have the link to the Kaggle notebook at the end, and so in case you want to experiment with it yourself. So first, what I do, installing dependencies, what's needed, importing required libraries, and attaching the Google API key. That's important to get the LLM working. And then I'm defining a simple sample database. Really, it's only one table with 4 entries right now for this exercise. And I'm then also defining the database tools we need for the function calling later on too. We list all tables in the database. We can describe a specific table and then also execute a given SQL query. In the next step, I define some classes and configurations that we use in later steps that we need, like the economic impact sentiment analysis. So that's the overall impact analysis that will be used as part of the exercise, as well as a class for the different styles I currently have identified. We will also use Google Search for grounding and have that configured here as well, and set up configuration for the economic impact analysis and the artist style here as well. So to get started, very simple. You can see in here we ask for an economic impact and then the time period. Those are the first two lines in here. I have them also hard-coded, so I will comment those two lines later on again, so you can do a run all as part of this notebook. But for this exercise, let's just run through. So putting in, for example, terrace as an economic category in here. Then very simple, do a time period. Let's do 200 years. These are the same values I have hard-coded as well, so you can easily overwrite this. And then we connect to the LLM, and we'll take a little bit, and we will wait for the output. Output already is here, so it has chosen 3 different events. The Capstone Chevalier Treaty, not sure how to pronounce it, from 1860. The Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act from 1930, and the US-China trade war that started in 2018. So those 3 events were chosen. You can see the reasoning were given, and we also see getter analysis and can read through. In an enhancement of this current implementation, you could start capturing a longer conversation with the LLM as well. In this release, I haven't done it, so it's step by step. We are walking through here, and then in the next step, I have instructions identified here that I'm giving the LLM to perform in the overall impact analysis, basically the steps to do. So that's the instruction prompt that we will be passing. We have the rubric here included as well, and the different steps the LLM should take. Coming back to the function calling earlier on. Did I execute this? Okay, all right. Function calling, I have that listed here as well. That, sorry, it's not function calling, it's a function I defined to calculate the overall impact analysis. Function calling comes later in the progress. So in this step, we basically pass the information we have retrieved earlier, pass it to this function, and we get some structured output, which is basically an overall impact analysis based on the entries that we had, and that's in the next step here. Execute it. So overall was negative. So we see the summary here from the 3 events that were chosen earlier. It gave a positive economic impact for the first one, very negative for the one from 1930, and a negative one for the US-China trade war. So the overall average across the 3 is the negative impact that what we see in here that was given. So now we get to the function calling that we need to access our database, retrieve the artist, choose one randomly, and look up the style for that specific artist that was selected. So let me execute this here as well. We can see in here it's using the tools that were given as part of the function calling, and it selects one artist from the database, Andy Warhol. Andy Warhol was using the pop-out style, so we will capture this. as an input for the final step here, really basically generate an impact. So we construct the prompt, pass it on to the LLM that we have in here, and then wait for the output. And the inputs are the economic event category we have specified, the overall economic impact, the sentiment that we calculated or estimated, and then the style that we are using for this painting. And we can see, got a painting in the pop-up style expressing the negative impact that we have. So yep, that's so far really the end of the project. As I mentioned earlier, I also did a simple agent implementation, and really it's a little bit overkill. So just wanted to learn about LangGraph. That's why I implemented the agent here as well. And defining the class, different parameters in here that also captures the information, and have the LLM configured in here, and then different nodes that we have set up. Let me execute that here as well. That sets up the LangGraph, and we have one node, user input, for the economic category and the duration. Then we have the next node to get or retrieve 3 events with a significant impact, so similar what we did earlier. We calculate the overall impact, we choose an artist, get the style, it's another node. And then as a final step, we get the image. That's the last node as part of this exercise. We build the graph, and very simple. All done in sequence. So for this is overkill, but in future enhancements, when you do, for example, longer conversations with the LLM, allow for this to specify the events, to follow up with some questions, and maybe do different, image generations as well. That's where the agent might be much more helpful than it is right now. So yeah, overall, this is it. For the implementation, feel free to try it out yourself. And just a couple of comments in here. For the agent implementation, I noticed that the Google search grounding did not really work. It worked in the earlier part of it, the non-agent implementation, it worked just fine. You can put in a short duration, like give me 3 events over the last 6 or 3 months. And for terrorists, for example, you get the current events. And but I didn't get this with the agent implementation, so I used the same code basically as a wrapper, and need to troubleshoot this a little bit more, why that is, but that's currently there. Then let's see what else. During the image generation step, I sometimes get a text response instead of an image. So it's basically a description for that image. And also not sure why that is, if there's a limit of images that can be generated in a certain time frame. But after I ran through the notebook several times, at some point, I get some text description instead of a real image. But that's pretty much it. And let's see what else. I mentioned earlier that the economic category really is, there are no constraints right now. For example, you could enter nonsense as a category and get a valid output from the LLM based on how the LLM is interpreting nonsense as an economic category. So in a future implementation, it might make sense to limit the input that can be given here as well. But otherwise, this is it. And I would like to thank you for spending the time with me here today. And you can see here is the link towards the notebook if you want to try it out yourself. Thanks again, and I talk to you later. Bye.